Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome URNE frontman Joe Nally to the podcast. URNE's new album, A Feast on Sorrow, will be out this Friday, August 11th on Candlelight Records. Joe talks about the benefits of having grown up in London, the discovery of Metallica, working with Joe Duplantier, the process of choosing the album's artwork, and more. A Feast of Sorrow is an incredible record. Make sure you check it out on Friday when it drops. It's Album of the Year material in my books. Make sure you are subscribed to As the Story Grows on your favorite podcast platform of choice. You can leave a comment like The Fourth Perspective did on YouTube. He said, "Nice interview" on chapter 371 with JB from August Burns Red. Thanks. You can find the podcast on Substack, Discord, and Patreon. All Patreon members get early access to every episode of As the Story Grows. Links to all of those will be in the show notes. Enjoy today's chat with Joe Nally from URNE.
How you doing?
Doing good, man. How are things across the pond?
Yeah, it's all right. The weather's pretty shit here, obviously. Been to all these nice European cities the last month, and then I come back to mine, and it's rubbish weather. So, so apart from that, everything's good.
That's awesome. That's great. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in London, but I've recently moved down to be down by the coast, so near kind of Brighton area.
Okay. What facilitated that move? Just you had to leave the big city, or?
I mean, I still work in London.
Oh.
But yeah, a lot of my family moved out of London down the coast, and then I think being in London all the time can have a bit of a negative effect. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. Like, I've gone from a place where I was really social and had a lot of friends to now I've got some friends down here, but there's certain times if we're out on tour or something, or my friends are on tour, I'm like, what can I do today? Oh, I'm fucking bored. Whereas when I was in London, it's been like, anyone up for doing anything? So yeah. I'm still trying to figure it out. But when it's sunny, being down by the beach is a lot better.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
Definitely helps.
Yeah. What was it growing up like?
Growing up in South London, it's a weird one. I feel like I loved it, and then all of a sudden there was a point when I think where I kind of grew up at a point in the before I can remember, 70s and 80s. It was meant to be a really thriving, cool place. Then I think there was a point all of a sudden you hit your early teens, and then you start to realise the sort of the negatives of the area. And that was certainly different. But I think it helped. I grew up in quite a cultured area, and I think that's one of, like, me and my old housemate, we grew up on the same street, and we would always say that was like one of the best learning curves we could have by growing up in friends from all over the world. Yeah, with our parents from whatever background, and I think that was just a great learning curve. Nice. For us. And I really wouldn't change it, to be fair. I think if I grew up down by the coast, I think I would have been bored forever.
Right. Yeah. It's always interesting. I grew up in DC, very diverse and cultured. My wife did not, and she had a very different experience. So
yeah. I can imagine. It's funny. I've got some friends who've grown up in a very different way from me. And how they deal with a lot of modern subjects, you can tell they feel really uncomfortable about it, and it's so weird how some have to be like, I have to act in this way and show this, and it's just like, nah, you don't. Just be a good person.
Yeah.
And then you'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure. What got you into music?
Billy Joel, I guess.
Okay.
That was, I'm not really, like, no one else in my family plays music. My mum was into soul music. My dad into stuff like Rod Stewart. Some like more like stuff like also like Gypsy Kings, Gloria Estefan. But then I think we had Billy Joel's Stormfront, and that's my first thing I can really remember musically from a very young age. The song We Didn't Start the Fire. And I think from there, just a little bit of harder hitting Billy Joel song. And I think from there, my next sort of discovery would have been like Meatloaf.
Yeah.
And so I always like the slightly edgier stuff, very OTT. I'm not saying that the Billy Joel's OTT, but that song had a sort of a drive and force behind it. And yeah, I think once I found like Meatloaf, and it was like trying to find stuff that, you know, I heard my first Aerosmith record, and it was just like, oh shit, that's a little bit heavier, and whatever flipping Bon Jovi, like whatever Blood on Blood, and you're like, yeah, wicked. And then it's getting slightly heavier.
Yeah.
And then one day, as with a lot of people, someone's older sibling went, listen to this, and it was Metallica 1, but they played me the second half before they played me the first half, and it was just like, you'll never guess how this song started, and I was like, no fucking way. And then I remember, not even like I'm a legitimate massive fan of them, but I remember seeing the Freak on a Leash video.
Okay.
Just like, I mean, what is that, 98? And I was young, and I was just like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
It's like changed my life. But it's kind of that age where you kind of like, I was young, and I was me and my mate Greg were trying to discover it. And where we're from, not many people like rock or metal, so we were just taking a punt, and you'd save your pocket money and bunk off school and go and take a risk on an album in the rock section. I've had many duds. And you're like, let's fingers crossed this one's a good one. I've saved all week, I'm not eating all week, and fingers crossed. And you would take a punt. I've heard this band, I've heard the name. So yeah, there was times one day I'd walk out with flipping Ride the Lightning. The next week I'd walk out of a Goo Goo Dolls album, whatever. And you're just living and learning. And then I kind of, started hearing things like The Offspring, and I was like, yeah, but it's not really what I want. But I still got guitar. And then when we was like 13, we went to we had to go to like the kids from like the kind of area that we were from, to go to a good school, you had to travel far, because all of our parents didn't want us to go to school where we're from. So loads of us had to do this thing to travel to this school, which was mainly made up of like posher, richer kids. And then I was like, fucking hell, what am I getting myself into here? Like, this is really different from where I grew up on. And it was amazing. It was so different. And a guy, Adam Jakes, his older brother, was a metal guy, and he used to just give me recordings and whatnot. And that was it. 13 years of age, and all of a sudden I just became hooked. And yeah, he'd make us like compilations, and I'd be like, I like that Megadeth song, I'm gonna go and get a Megadeth album. I don't know, I like that flipping Slayer song, whatever,
Yeah.
And then again, sometimes that compilation had this Machine Head track on, and I'd go and buy like the Burning Red, which was a semi-shit Machine Head album. But again, I was getting more and more like access to it, and that's how it kind of went. And they were the best years, like for me, like the teens. Because that's when you're discovering everything. I'd read every magazine article, I'd read every booklet, and that's for me. I know people who still have the same love for it, like, and I wish I did. Like, I love the music, it's what I play, but a lot of it's thankful to my younger years.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with URNE, a lot of it is a tribute to what we grew up on.
Yeah.
And I think what happened after that, like a lot more of like what my mum maybe listened to, a lot of soul stuff, really took over from about the age of, I'd say about 16. I started working in the music mastering and promotion company. And I think all of a sudden I just had a world of music in front of me. And it was just like, what, Jesus, where do I start?
Yeah.
And so from 16, all of a sudden it was just every day. For 5 years I was listening to all different music, and I had to listen to it so you really get to understand it. And but yeah, so I'd say that was like kind of my journey from the kind of start, I guess.
Nice.
My key years.
Nice. At what point did you pick up an instrument? We're like, I'm going to play in bands.
13. A mate of mine had a garage band, and we practiced every weekend in his garage and drums. But I said I could play drums, couldn't play drums at all. And a geezer we knew, I think he stole a drum kit from someone, sold it to us for like £40, and I was like, yeah, that'd do. Didn't even have cymbal stands, so we used to tie them for like rope and hang them from the garage. And sort of like Megadeth, like Rust in Peace era, but just without the fucking cool bit. So you'd hit a cymbal where it was on a rope, it would go flying. Like, I can't hit that until it comes back. And but yeah, that was like my first sort of thing. And then I met a couple of people at a gig. I want to say 2003. I was young, you know. I've been at it for a long time, and I don't think some people over here don't realise, Jesus Christ. And outside of Machine Head gig, we bunked off of school, and they were a guitarist and a singer, and they had a little band. Then I was like, yeah, I've got a drummer. And I didn't. It was a mate's older brother, but I told him I had a drummer. And then, we started practicing jamming like a metal band, and just doing Kill Switch Engage covers from like 2002. And I could not play bass. Still can't. I'm a blagger. My thing is my vocals is my thing. And again, I needed a bass, and this kid I know was like, let me sort something out. And he went and stole one from the music department at school. And it's like, I'll get my brother to change it around. So I had a Yamaha bass still at my parents'. I've donated guitars to schools since, so I'm in the good books with the Lord again. And so it was always just about that, and I didn't really do the vocal thing, but I used to love going to like gigs, like shouting along, and then I used to love going football, and I'd always be like I'm pretty chill at sport, but when stuff used to kick off, just got a loud voice. Yeah. And you know, the amount of times I used to get told off if something went. So I think all of a sudden I was like, yeah, I think I'm okay with this. So I started doing bass and some vocals, but it took some years before I started doing the vocals. And I feel like it's taken a while for me to get a really good understanding of it, but I've started doing some vocal lessons now, and now I'm like, oh, it's like a whole world is opened up to me. And I thoroughly I enjoy it. But where we're a three-piece, my bass is the rhythm section. I know, like I try and do what a rhythm guitar would do for us. I mean, some areas is dead simple, but for me, it's just so I can do what I can do vocally. It's pretty intense, and like I have loads of pedals to try and make it sound like I'm playing another guitar. It doesn't work at all. But it's got us to where we are, and you know, we just try and as a three piece, we try and make it sound as big and powerful as possible. And I think we're doing quite well at it.
let's talk about URNE, how the band gets started.
Myself and Angus had been in bands since about 2009, and the band we was in was a band called Chapters. Now there's loads of bands called Chapters. But we did that, and that's sort of the genesis for what's become URNE. On the last album, there's a song called Desolate Heart, which we were writing for Chapters. Then I went and joined something else, and Angus joined soon after, because I just wanted to taste. Things just weren't working. We toured with so many good bands, and things weren't working for us. I joined the band just to kind of get some nice experience, not to have the stress and the heartbreak of things not always happening. And we did that for a while, but it was me joining a band. Now, after a while, I kind of realised that these aren't guys I grew up with. They're from a very different world from me. And I was just there to enjoy the experience of playing wicked festivals with my best mate. So once that ended, about 2016, I kind of gave myself a year, kind of loosely, just whatever. I wrote some songs. Then I think about 2017, near 2018, started going over some stuff with a friend who was the drummer. He never actually appeared on anything, but he was more of a rock and roll drummer, and sounded more like Thin Lizzy and Danzig to what we sound like now. And we did an EP. We got another drummer in, and it was all about keeping it really stripped back. And I think at the time, me and Angus were kind of like finding our feet again. What did we want to do? And it sort of sounds like a bit like The Sword. And then spoke to Angus, and it was like, we need to do what we know what to do, what everyone told us years ago, what we were really good at writing. And we started to kind of go back to that, and everything seems to have fallen into place.
Yeah.
And last night I flew back from our last show with Gajira, and it took a while. It took very, very little ups and many, many downs.
Yeah.
And, and now here we are chatting about music.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime I talk to somebody and it's like a band that seems to come out of nowhere, it's like, no, they've been working for fucking ever to make it work. Like,
it's sickening when I've realised how many years I've been doing it, how much money I've put into it, how much money I've covered for other people. Because I always worked. That was always my thing. Like, I've never cut corners. I've always worked, and I'll cover this. Don't worry, boys. And Jesus Christ, I wish I'd probably have a breakdown if I sat there and looked at how much. But what it does, the moments of joy, that's what it's worth.
Yeah.
And certainly this last month, it's been, wow. The last 2 years have been mental. And looking at my passport, seeing how many places I've been to, and I'm like, I would never ever think about going to Estonia.
Right.
Going to Helsinki in 2 days' time, and then I'm off to Portugal and and all these amazing things. And yeah, it's starting to be worth it now.
Yeah,
it was always worth it. Always worth it.
Yeah, it's just a different experience that makes it worth it a little sweeter.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You guys released Serpent and Spirit 2001 or 2021. Was that record written? Was that done before COVID? Because in the press release, it says this new record was like 2 years of writing. Was that record done and kind of got pushed and shelved because of the pandemic? Or
no, that album, I think there was 2 songs left to write Serpent when we was in COVID. And we already set ourselves a recording date, which was at a real height of it. So we were recording it in Wales, and it was in complete lockdown. So we had to drive through all these little alleys, fucking tiny roads to get to the studio. And yeah, that was stressful. But we wrote, I think, 2 songs in it, Memorial, which is an instrumental, and Desolate Heart. We wrote the music for during lockdown. I sent stuff over to Angus and whatnot. Constantly working on the lyrics. And then this new one we had written, I feel like we might have had one song straight away after we finished, recording the album. It's hard because I've always got some riffs that have been somewhere in the locker for years, and I feel like on this I didn't. Oh no, actually, tell a lie. There's a riff in the opening song that I've had for about 10 years.
Oh wow!
So it's finally had its place, its moment of glory. There's a few bits we've had for years, but there's always one that I'm like, one day this riff will have its place on an album. So yeah, I'd say with this one, it really did start the moment. It really started the moment the last album come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like this, then writing for the next one, I've written a track already, and I've got some ideas, but the writing will start the moment this one's out. Then,
nice.
Like, can think ahead.
Nice. I asked that question. I was like, "Oh, 2021 was 2 years ago. What is time anymore?"
Well, the COVID thing, mate, it's really tricks me. Like, I'll think about things, and I'm like, there's that 2 year period.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I think, I mean, obviously, a lot of people have that same sort of feeling, and yeah, weird. That was real life, working from home for a year and what have you. Yeah. You know.
New album is called A Feast on Sorrow. That's the title of one of the songs, but what led you to choose that as the title of this record?
I just think once you listen to the whole thing, you read the lyrics, you look at the artwork, you read the foreword, which we thought would be something cool, me and my manager, to do a foreword like people do for books. We did one for this album. And it's a very, it's not a happy record. And yeah, I just felt it felt powerful enough.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was telling you what you're about to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's right. I feel like it's, and I think I had to check, it's never been used before.
Yeah.
Like Serpent in Spirit hasn't been used before, but then I found out a band had used an album title called Spirit and the Serpent, and I was like, ugh, I feel like a cheat. So, but Feast on Sorrow, I don't think it's ever been used before. Nice.
What was the experience of working with Joe from Gojira on producing this record?
Yeah, mate, it was really surreal. It was really chilled, and I mean, it's amazing that I'm fortunate to be in a band that can take us to America, and
mm-hmm.
It was really cool. And as weird as it sounds, like leaving the day me and Angus left, I was on the plane. We hardly spoke. Angus was watching a film, and I just sat there for 7 hours. No music, no film or anything. Just sat there like, what the fuck has happened? How has that happened? And over here, in Ireland, there's a famous show called Father Ted. And there's this scene where it's about vicars. One of them gets dared to kick the bishop up the arse. Sounds stupid. And he kicks him up the arse, and the bishop goes into shock. He's in shock for like days because he's been kicked up the arse. Then all of a sudden he comes out of it and he's like, he did kick me up the arse. And that's how I felt. I was just on the plane coming home, just like completely zoned out. Like, how has that happened after years of things maybe not falling into place? Well, not falling into place, not falling into place. That I've just come back from doing this record with this guy who's responsible for 4 or 5 of the best metal records in the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
And it's just like the guy who wrote The Art of Dying has just worked on my album, and the guy who produced Magma, this beautiful sounding heavy record, Grammy nominated and should have won. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff they've lost to, you're like, Jesus.
Right.
But just this guy who's just so nice, so smart. There's a bit of erraticness, which is cool. It's very quirky. Not too much. It all adds into this like amazing package. And it's one of the people I'm like, even if we had another day in the studio, the amount we could have picked up on and learned from. And I think if and when, hopefully, we do it again, I think we'll all be that romanticness of what the fuck, we're in New York City, blah, blah, blah. Certainly our drummer had a lot less time to prepare because he'd only just joined the band. And he would literally posted that he's about to give up drums, whatever, and then, mate, come and join us. And I think for him it was a lot more, and it still is. He's like, I don't think he can, his last 10 months have been really out there. And I think he's very much like, I can't believe Joe's just said hello to me. And I'm like, mate, that's it, you know. But he's like a real musician out of us. Angus is like James is a drum teacher, you know, and it's his life. So things like that to him are like, oh my God, where I'm like, yeah, he's all right now. Just text him on the side, you know, he's my mate. Whereas James, like, it means the world to him, and that's exciting to see. Sometimes I'm like, calm down. That's exciting to see. And yeah, it's just having an amazing experience. And when we turn up, you know, they've got all these guitar techs and drum techs, this famous online YouTube drum tech guy there, and their engineer that Gajira used live and on the studio albums. And I was just like, wow, like this is it. But I think next time, I think I'd be completely fucking focused in the whole, that is Joe from Gajira. Even though it still is. We've just gone out and done loads of shows with them. He'll send me a silly text and I'll send him one, and I'm like, that's a mate I'd have a smoke with or a beer with, you know?
Yeah. So
that'll be taken off. Next time I think I'll be able to really pick up more about what he's doing and what he's thinking. I think. Anyway.
Were there things you were drawing inspiration from lyrically for this album?
A couple of family illnesses, really.
Yeah.
A couple of people extremely close to me, you know, are going through and went through a certain thing, and there's no positive ending to that thing. And so yeah, that, and it just felt right to write it about that. Mm-hmm. And it just, once a few tracks were written, and I was like, I can really expand on this, and I think it's a good thing for myself to do it. Because sometimes I've got a really like amazing, loving family, but I've always been like the slight outcast with it. Always kind of did my own thing. Yeah. So it does come to things where I have to ask questions or figure out something or what have you. So maybe sometimes I don't quite know how to approach it because I've been a little bit distant. Even though we live 5 minutes away from each other now, I've always kind of done my own thing. So I think for this was something for me to express what's in there. You know, it's better if you can't talk about it. It's nice that I can write about it and then give it over to Angus and be like, "Do you want to read over these?" And then so I think it was very it gave me what I needed from this album experience.
I'm curious about the album artwork there. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but there's like a nature element to each album's artwork, the EP, the last full length, and this one. I don't know if that's intentional, but what led you to this idea of like the ocean waves in this image?
So, I mean, it took a while for that to happen because we tried to do something else. And the thing, the old band, me and Angus were in chapters. It's of Angus took it up a mountaintop in the Philippines where he's from. And then we joined the band and they already had that creative thing. And I was like, yeah, cool. So when we did the Mountain of Gold, it's a fire at some pagan festival near where I live. The Serpent Spirit is of a lake reservoir. A friend of mine took it. And I just love the colours. If you turn it upside down, some things are edited out to make it look a bit quirky and cool, some Easter eggs, I guess. And but this one, we were trying something else, and it just wasn't hitting, you know. And I was I'm and ahhing and trying different things, and I was like, yeah, cool. And I was, you know, in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the photographer Rachel Talabar. I had two pictures she'd taken, and a link to an article. And she's won awards, and she's highly regarded oceanic and coastline photographer. And I saw it, and so we had all moved out of London, my parents first, to live, you know, that kind of dream of being by the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sister went, and then my nan went, and I was like, oh, fuck it, yeah, I'll go as well. We all kind of lived 5 minutes away from each other, and it was that kind of dream to live this life with our family around and right next to the sea. And obviously, since moving down, not everything's quite gone to plan. And the picture is actually taken about 4 miles up from where we live.
Oh, wow.
And I saw it, and I was just like, that feels right. It's got this kind of powerful, and it feels there's a coldness to it. And, you know, the ocean has this, you know, I put it in the thing, this ability to, prime example, look what happened last week, this ability to completely crush and destroy things.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like that was perfect, and it tied in with the kind of backstory as to why we're here. And I was going over the artwork with our manager, and I was like, I've got this idea. And I sent him both pictures, and he was just like, yes. And thankfully, like, myself and like, our manager, me and him, like, we connect on quite a lot of things. So he was like, do a mock-up. We'll just use that and just do a mock-up to see, then we'll reach out. And we did. And I don't think she's ever really had a metal band or a band go, we want to use your artwork,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And here it is, you know, we got to see it on this big backdrop for the Gajira shows, and I was like, that looks amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm buzzed for her. I don't know if she knows what we sound like. But it's funny, like, she worked in law for years, and I work in law firms, and it's like kind of nice little things that tie in.
Yeah.
And I think it looks amazing. I think there's too many artworks now that are whatever, it's another metal artwork, and I just want our thing to feel, I always want ours to look different,
yeah, and
to be real, something very, very organic. And I'm buzzed with it. I'm really happy. It goes perfectly with the album music.
Yeah, it looks incredible. You guys have been playing shows with Gojira. You got some more coming up. Record's out in August. What's the rest of this year look like for the band?
We got Tuska Festival in Finland with Ghost. We're headlining the stage. We've never been there, but we're now headlining the stage, and it's like, wow, okay. And then we got a few weeks off, and then we go over to Portugal to play a festival, another place we've never been. Metal Days in Slovenia. It's meant to be like one of the best European festivals. It used to be held on, like, surrounded by lakes and waterfalls, but they had to move it, so now it's just around one big lake or something. And we're on the main stage for that with, like, In Flames, which in Europe, it's mainland Europe. It's like, yeah, them, Head and Shutburn, you can't go wrong. So yeah, we've got that. Then we've got a few UK things. We've got Bloodstock Festival, which over in the UK, it's like the metal outdoor festival. You've got Download, but that's a bit more an eclectic, like.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a mixture of different sort of metals, where Bloodstock is really metal. I'm on the main stage for that the day after the album comes out, so it feels very fitting that it's then. Then we're going to announce some cool dates actually on Monday. We're announcing some shows with like quite a legendary UK doom. I don't even know how to call them. It's just one of the sort of best bands produced from the UK. So we're only doing a few shows with them, probably just jumping on as main support. And they're going to be really great shows. And I think a few more festivals throughout the year, and then some UK headliner shows at some point. Yeah, so it's all exciting. I think we're dropping another song very soon as well.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.